Senate is about Nigeria and Nigerians.
Hello and welcome to Inside the Senate, your window into the activities of the Red Chamber at the National Assembly. I am Aisha Muhammad Ahmed, your anchor. And on this episode of Inside the Senate, we shall continue with our review series of activities in the Senate before it embarked on recess on Monday, 7th August 2023. On this episode of Inside the Senate, we shall be looking at some motions considered by the Senate before embarking on recess. Also on this episode is an extensive interview with Senator Aminu Iya Abbas from Adamawa Central Senatorial District. Senator Aminu Iya Abbas, among other things, will be talking about efforts by the 10th Senate to address insecurity in the nation and boosting the nation's economy. Details of these and more when the program resumes after the break. Please stay tuned.
The agenda of a lawmaker wants to make law
to ensure peace and security of this country.
My main aim is to do the commanders.
Representation that will bring a lot of improvement.
Thanks for staying tuned. The 10th Senate has so far considered quite a number of motions on issues ranging from insecurity, police harassment of citizens, illegal oil bunkering, and a lot more. We shall begin this episode of Inside the Senate with a review of some of these motions considered by the Senate before it went on recess. Keep watching.
Observe that Nigerian police force, which has one of its primary duty.
Senator Onyekachinwe Ebonyi Peter, Ebonyi North, moved one of the first motions considered by the 10th Senate. It was on the urgent need to halt the extortion, intimidation, and harassment of motorists and commuters by the police on public roads.
Observe that Nigerian police force, which has one of its primary duty to facilitate the free passage and movement of commuters and motorists on public roads, has taken undue advantage by resorting to extortion, intimidation, and harassment of motorists.
Senators contributed to the motion, expressing diverse viewpoints and opinions.
I know what prompts my distinguished colleague Nwaboyi to move this motion is what is going on the social media, how a policeman run on a citizen of this country. This act is barbaric, and we demand a panel of inquiry, public hearing on how the police will go about to take disciplinary measure to those policemen that they did that act.
If such a report comes, the Inspector General of Police should consider summary dismissal of the officers involved in this act. It's very rampant on our highways, and we cannot continue to say, call on them to stop this. They will not stop it. Even when you report them to maybe area commander of the location where this thing happened, the matter will be closed because some of them are on duty on the highways on their behalf.
Prayers in the motion was for the Senate to call on the Inspector General of Police to direct his officers and men to stop forthwith the extortion, intimidation, and harassment of motorists and commuters on the highways. Call on the Inspector General of Police to see to the training and retraining of men and women of the Nigerian police force to ensure civility in the performance of their duty. Call on the Inspector General of Police to set up an investigative panel to investigate cases of harassment of motorists by policemen on the highways and ensure adequate punishment for those found guilty, and fix a timeline for the Inspector General of Police to report back to the Senate on the level of compliance. The motion was voted on and adopted.
The need for the construction of the One-stroke-element.
Another motion considered by the 10th Senate after it was constituted was on the need for the construction of One-element communities axis of the East-West Road. It was sponsored by Senator Piggy Barinada from Rivers South Senatorial District.
That despite spending over 600 billion and over 1.5 trillion respectively on the project, such critical national projects, if abandoned, will bring untold hardship, neglect, and exhibiting the sufferings and pain on the people and attendant loss of revenue that would have accrued to the government.
And I stand to second
Senator Aminu Iya Abbas
this
from
motion.
Adamawa South Senatorial District, after seconding the motion, made his contribution.
What he has brought out here is what we ought to investigate. How does a federal agency spend as much as 85 billion on a kilometer of road? Exactly what are they building? That is the question. And until we get to the bottom of this, we will simply be throwing good money after the one that is already gone bad.
The road initially, when it was
Also lending his voice to the motion, Senator Yahya Abdullahi from Kebbi North Senatorial District, who was the pioneer permanent secretary of the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, shed more light on the project and the amount of money approved for it.
The road initially, when it was conceived, was under the Ministry of Works. But President Erdogan, in his wisdom, brought it back to the new Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs as its key project. A lot of resources were spent on that road. But I doubt the veracity of the information and the data relating to the finances about whether that amount, is up to what has been quoted in the motion.
Senator Abdullahi advised that the Senate should be very circumspect about figures and be more concerned about why the project is yet to be completed since its conception in 2006.
The recommendation of the mover of this motion for a thorough investigation about what had happened to this road, I think, is the right path to go. But let us not send the message to Nigerians that the amount quoted in the motion is true. Otherwise, the press is going to misconstrue the thing, and before we know what is happening, we will go out with the notion that in the Niger Delta we spend 800 billion on a kilometer of road. That is not true.
With further clarification by Senator Yahya Abdullahi on the inaccuracy of the figures for the project, Senator Aminu Iya Abbas, under matters of personal explanation, rose to withdraw his statement on the motion.
My personal explanation is that I withdraw my statement on the figures that I said based on what was on the motion, since further information has now come to show that what was put on the motion may not have been as it was accurate. I so withdraw.
The prayer for the motion was for the Senate to set up an ad hoc committee to look into the reasons for the back-to-back failure of every attempt of government to successfully complete the construction of the economically important stretch of the East-West Road by inviting the permanent secretaries of the Ministries of Works and Housing, Niger Delta Affairs, Petroleum Resources, Finance, Budget and National Planning, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the NNPC Limited, Managing Director of RCC Construction Company, and any relevant stakeholder to present detailed information on reason for the prolonged delay and abandonment of the project, current status of the contract and progress made thus far, challenges faced by the contractor in executing the project in order to avoid further delay, measures being taken to address the socio-economic impact of the abandoned road on the affected communities, and the planned timeline and strategies to ensure the completion of the project within a reasonable time frame, and thereafter ensure prioritization of the East-West Road project and allocation of necessary resources and support to enable its speedy completion. Senate President Godswill Akpabio also lent his voice to the motion and its prayers.
We are looking at the fact that the East-West Road was started in 2006 by President Obasanjo's administration, and as at 2023, the road is yet to be completed. And considering the importance of the road passing through a major economic artery of this nation, I think it has even assisted to reduce the revenue of the Federation. So a lot of factors must have contributed or militated against the completion of the road. And the only way we can find out is for this Senate to carry out a holistic investigation of the East-West Road contract from inception to date.
To that end, the motion was voted on and adopted, and an ad hoc committee of 10 senators, chaired by Senator Abdul Ningi, was set up. The committee was given 4 weeks to investigate into reasons for the failure of the completion of the East-West Road construction and report back to the Senate with its findings.
The motion is about the urgent need.
Still on motions so far considered by the 10th Senate, Senator Abubakar Sadiq Ohere, representing Kogi Central Senatorial District, raised the urgent need to curb the incessant cases of collapsed buildings, bridges and other structural failures occasioned by the lack and poor production quality, manpower and rising cost of reinforcement materials in the construction industry.
Aware that in the past 15 months, there has been an astronomical increase across board in the prices of these materials per ton, ranging from 45,000 in the early 2000s to its current price of 530,000 per ton. Also aware that this has led to structural failures in construction, and the challenges of affordability has led some developers to resort to cutting costs by purchasing substandard materials, which is resulting in the high speed of building collapse and other poor job execution in the country.
Some other senators shared their views on the motion.
People who are found guilty when this situation occurs should be criminalized. In certain parts of the world, if you are a medical doctor and somebody loses your life, it's not important for you to just write some medical jargons and nobody bothers about it. People investigate, and if you are careless, you can lose your license.
If you look at Abuja today, just last week or so, there was flood in one of these developed areas called Treadmore Estate. If we happen to get this kind of stuff in Abuja, that means other areas in Nigeria would not be an exemption.
Prayers in the motion were for the Senate to urge the federal government to explore the modalities of liaising with stakeholders in the construction industry to address factors necessitating affordability and quality challenges of reinforcement materials, etc. Also urge the Standard Organization of Nigeria (SON) and other regulatory bodies to sanitize the building and construction materials sector to get rid of substandard goods in the market as the rainy season is upon us. Further urge the Nigerian Institute of Building (NIOB) and the Nigerian Society of Engineers (NSE) to ensure proper supervision of workmen and to further carry out sensitization campaigns to enlighten the public on the need to use quality materials and professionals in the construction of buildings. Equally urge the Council for the Regulation of Engineers in Nigeria (COREN), the Architects Registration Council of Nigeria (ARCON), and other professional bodies to investigate, publish periodic report and penalize their members involved in cases of building collapse. Call on the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing to liaise with the Building Collapse Prevention Guild to carry out assessment of building prone to collapse by way of integrity test of suspected structures in order to alert residents and avert the impending loss of lives and property. Also called on the federal government that as a matter of national concern, the Ajaokuta Steel Company Limited should be made functional while encouraging investments in the steel sector as savings from the oil subsidy removal can be productively reinvested in this direction, and mandate the Committees on Works and Housing, Solid Minerals and Habitat to ensure implementation and report within 6 weeks for further legislative action. The motion was voted on and adopted. A motion is a proposal or request brought before the Senate for discussion or debate in support or against it. The motion is always titled and presented by a senator or a group of senators who are referred to as sponsors or movers of the motion. The motion is always accompanied by prayers required to be adopted by the Senate and referred to as Senate resolutions. After adoption, the resolutions are referred to the authority to which the motion is directed for necessary action or implementation.
You're still watching Inside the Senate. Like I mentioned at the beginning, our crew sought out Senator Aminu Iya Abbas, representing Adamawa Central Senatorial District in the 10th Senate. While chatting with our crew in Abuja, Senator Abbas talked about the efforts of the 10th Senate in ensuring the improvement of lives of Nigerians in the face of a hardship caused by the recent subsidy removal.
Everywhere in the world, and with Nigeria in particular, everywhere the economy is in tumble, and the system is not well, going on well as people are suffering all over the world. All the things we have been doing in the 10th Senate are things that that we think will reduce the effect of the difficulties people are facing. You see with the bills that we're passing, and with the speed at which we pass the bills, it shows that we have the people at heart, and we're trying to see that the difficulties faced by Nigerians is being reduced.
Senator Abbas also speaks on insecurity in Nigeria and the importance of addressing the challenges of insecurity to the nation.
See, whichever kind of insecurity in a country affects the economy. And so when it affects the economy, it affects everybody. Some people would think that because it's, initially people thought that because it's Northeast, we are not bothered, we are not mind. But the effect of the insecurity in Northeast will spread down on the other zones, and it will affect everything in the other zones, from the infrastructure facility, the food insecurity, and whatever. You know, it all comes together, it all works together. You see the speed at which we pass, we confirm the service chiefs when the president brought them. The speed at which we confirm the senators, the ministers, when they were being brought to the assembly. And we work day and night, we work tirelessly to ensure that we have done all this so that some things that the president alone cannot do, these people will do to be able to cushion the effect of both the economy and the insecurity. You know, it goes hand in hand. When the economy is bad, insecurity will increase, the level of insecurity will increase. When people are unemployed, the level of insecurity will increase. So these are things that, that work hand in hand.
Senator Abbas also speaks on corruption as it affects the nation, noting that it adversely affects the economy just as much as insecurity. He speaks on the role of the Senate to address the menace of corruption.
Corruption breeds inefficiency, insecurity affects the economy, corruption affects the economy affects insecurity. You see, those three things are going hand in hand. And to some extent, the problem in our country is the corruption. The most dreaded disease in Nigeria is corruption. And until we believe, and Nigerians believe, that we want to fight corruption, some of the problems will not be solved.
He further suggests that there is need to be deliberate reorientation of mindsets of Nigerians against corruption from the community levels.
And let me say this without fear of anybody. As I said, the major issue in this country is corruption. And this corruption starts from the society. The society, from the lower society. And I think we need to reorient Nigerians. I think that's what I will advise the federal government to do. There is a need for reorientation. There is a need to understand that giving a public office is not giving a license to riches. Because the society feels that once you are appointed or you are elected, you are given a license to become. It's not like that. What you are given, what they ask you to do is to go and contribute your quota to the development of the country.
In closing, Senator Abbas shares his legislative agenda as a senator of the 10th Assembly.
area of unemployment, area of education, health, which affects also the economy. So these are the mandate my people give me. And I'm doing all I could within maybe a year or two, to ensure that I've done all this. And I brought bills and laws that will affect the well-being or improve the well-being of my people. And not only my people, but Nigeria at large.
Those were highlights of our chat with Senator Aminu Iya Abbas, Senator representing Adamawa Central Senatorial District in the 10th Senate, as he talks about the efforts of the 10th Senate in ensuring the improvement of lives of Nigerians in the face of a hardship caused by the recent subsidy removal, amongst other issues. Our profile segment is next on the program. Do stay tuned for our Senator of the Week. Senator Solomon Adeola Olamilekan was born on the 10th of August 1969 at Lagos Island Maternity Hospital. He grew up in Alimosho, where he began his education at State Primary School, Alimosho, Lagos State. He proceeded to Community Grammar School, Akowonjo, Lagos for his secondary education. He then moved on to the Ondo State Polytechnic, Owo, now Rufus Giwa Polytechnic, Owo, Ondo State, where he bagged a higher national diploma in accounting. Senator Adeola had a stint with the flagship of Nigerian newspapers, The Guardian Newspapers Limited, for 12 years and rose to the position of accountant. He then proceeded to Olatunji Omoyeni & Co., a chartered accounting firm, where he led the audit team for several years and was later promoted to the position of a senior auditor. He later established his own company, Sutem Nigeria Limited, where he was the managing director and chief executive officer in the firm that specialized in tax consultancy. Senator Adeola is a chartered accountant and is a Chartered Accountant Fellow at the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICANN. Following his decision to join active politics, sometime at the dawn of the Fourth Republic, Senator Solomon Adeola Olamilekan was nominated and won the primary of the then ruling Action Congress of Nigeria, Lagos State, and was elected as a member to represent Alimosho State Constituency 2 at the Lagos State House of Assembly from 2003 to 2007. And again from 2007 to 2011. Senator Olamilekan was reputed to have been instrumental to the enactment of the law that strengthened the Lagos State Internal Revenue Service, a legislation that catapulted the revenue of the state from 5 billion monthly to over 20 billion naira. He was also part of the team that passed the Fiscal Responsibility Act and the Public Procurement Act of Lagos State. In 2011, Senator Olamilekan was elected to the federal legislature to represent Alimosho Federal Constituency at the Nigerian House of Representatives. As a first-time member of the House of Representatives, he was the chairman of the only constitutional committee, the Public Accounts Committee. Senator Solomon Adeola Olamilekan is a third-time senator representing Lagos West Senatorial District under the platform of the All Progressives Congress, APC, and he currently serves as chairman, Senate Committee on Appropriations of the 10th Senate. This brings us to the end of this week's edition of Inside the Senate. Join us again for another edition, and don't forget to communicate your questions and opinion via any of our feedback channels. See you next time, and thanks for watching.